The third summit of the European Union and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, concluded in Brussels with several leaders called for greater international cooperation. In Russia, the armed forces neutralized 28 Ukrainian drones trying to attack the territory of Crimea. And in Israel, thousands continue to protest against the controversial judicial reform being pushed by Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right government. Hello, welcome to From the South. From the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, I'm Ana Rosabal. We begin with the news. The third summit of the European Union and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States concluded on Wednesday in the city of Brussels, where several leaders called for greater international cooperation. The bi-regional event of head states and governments had in its second day a plenary session, a working lunch, and a press conference for its closing. Climate change, digital transformation, social challenges, and the search for global peace and multilateralism were part of the common path, marked by challenges about a recent past with unfavorable relations for Latin Americans and Caribbeans. The closing ceremony with the reading of the final declaration demanding the strengthening of EU-CELAC ties of equals and condemning interference and unilateral coercive measures. EU.
We have been not together for 8 years in a summit, and in a sense we can borrow from a poem, I'm sure you know it, by Octavio Paz, Nobel laureate for literature from Mexico, in the poem Release, where he addresses the question that we grew, we withered, and then we sprouted again. CELAC EU, we grew, we withered, and we have now sprouted again. And what we have to do, we have to go to our body's edges amidst the unbounded elements of the real world of life, living, and production. Thank you very much, Charles. On the basis of this declaration, we have some actions to do.
Meanwhile, the President of the European Union Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, referred to the major agreements resulted from this meeting.
An excellent summit, and it really felt like a new beginning for old friends. We need each other. These are times of great geopolitical change, and like-minded friends like us need to stand together. We had good deliveries, and I want to focus on the part of deliveries for our people and for our businesses. On the first day, we launched the Global Gateway Investment Agenda for Latin America and the Caribbean. We will bring over 45 billion euro of high-quality European investment to Latin America and the Caribbean. More than 135 projects are already in the pipeline, so it's a very good start.
Also in Belgium, social organizations and leaders of Latin America, the Caribbean, and Europe attended the closing events of the People's Summit, which ran parallel to the CELAC European Union Summit. Several Latin American and European leaders spoke at the closing event, speaking in favor of the creation of a new multipolar world. The summit had previously issued a 9-point final declaration stated that at the time when the U.S. would like to have the world divided into state blocks disconnected and confronted with each other. The CELAC European Union Summit provided a forum to advance relations in search of a peaceful world that is also capable of respecting Mother Nature. Furthermore, the declaration strongly rejected any political or military action aimed at interfering with the institutions and constitutional norms of any of the states participating in the summit, and condemned media campaigns geared at destabilizing democratically elected governments in Latin America and the Caribbean. At the closing of the People's Summit in Brussels, Bolivian President Luis Arce affirmed that his government is carrying out environmental work with respect for indigenous communities and the sustainable management of natural resources.
And therefore we have the duty to respect our nature, the Mother Earth. We need to respect as well our resources. We need to defend the countryside, the country people, and the indigenous people. We also need to remember that we can't only care about the human well-being. We need to care and we need to take action also for the earth well-being.
Early on Tuesday, during his speech at the session of the European Union-CELAC summit, the president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, called to deepen alliances to improve the quality of life of the Caribbean and Latin American nations.
I firmly believe that we can and must build better relations, balanced, supportive, and cooperative to improve the lives of our peoples. Latin America and the Caribbean are no longer the backyard of the United States, nor are we former colonies that require advice, nor we will accept being treated as mere suppliers of raw materials. We are independent and sovereign countries with a common vision of the future. We are building the community of Latin American and Caribbean states as the unified and representative voice of our unity in diversity.
Cuban leader Miguel Díaz-Canel also called to discuss the growing flow of migrants and to respect the UN Charter of International Law.
We need to discuss migration-related issues in depth, alarmed by the proliferation of hate speech, intolerance, exclusionary and xenophobic policies. To deal with the increasing flow of migrants from southern countries, we are concerned about the insistence on replacing the commitments to the United Nations Charter of International Law with a so-called international order based on rules that have not been negotiated, let alone agreed upon by all states.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, new dates, and more. All the studies coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday in Buenos Aires, the Argentinian Steel Workers Union mobilized as part of a plan of struggle which includes a 24-hour general strike. The Steel Industry Workers Union will launch a plan of struggle consisting of several days of strike and mobilizations following failed negotiations with the business sector regarding a wage increase demand. The strike got underway Tuesday with a mobilization in the capital city of Buenos Aires running from 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. local time. The union is asking for a 10% salary increase for the month of June and a 30% increase until September. The union warns that refusal for employers will lead to another 48-hour national strike, foreseen for July the 20th, followed by a 72-hour strike, which will start on Wednesday, July the 26th. On Tuesday, Colombia's special jurisdiction for peace began the final phase in the case of all positive, a term used for the murder of innocent civilians by the military who represented them as guerrillas killed in combat in order to obtain benefits or promotions. The Truth Recognition Chamber announced that it could call as witness for former presidents Álvaro Uribe Vélez and Juan Manuel Santos. On Monday, the Special Jurisdiction for Peace announced that it will summon military commanders and those who occupied high positions in the state between 2005 and 2008. In this new phase of investigation, responsibility for the crime will not only be attributed for hierarchy, position, or command, but also be direct or indirect participation in the extrajudicial executions. The Russian armed forces neutralized 28 Ukrainian drones trying to attack the territory of Crimea. According to a ministerial declaration, 17 of the devices were destroyed using anti-aircraft defense, and the other 11 were eliminated through electronic warfare. The governor of Crimea, Sergei Asyanov, stated that there were no victims nor material damages and thanked the military for their rigor and coordination in their actions. This is the second attack in less than 48 hours carried out by Kiev against the peninsula, after bombing the bridge that connects it with the Russian province of Krasnodar, described by President Vladimir Putin as a terrorist attack that will not go unanswered. In this context, the road traffic has already been restored on the bridge linking Crimea with Russia. The Russian Deputy Prime Minister Marat Yusnolin confirmed it on Monday night. He also said that after a preliminary analysis of the bridge structures and the verification of its safety, the traffic of cars was authorized on one of the lanes. The studies carried out by the experts after the second Ukrainian bombardment of the bridge determined that the pillars were not damaged and rail traffic will continue as normal. One of the rails shows minor damage, but it does not represent an impediment for the circulation of trains. A nuclear-armed United States submarine arrived in the port of Boston on Tuesday as part of the Seoul-Washington Bilateral Nuclear Consultative Group talks in South Korea. The Bilateral Nuclear Advisory Group working meeting is the first of the Nuclear Deterrence Alliance, which President Yoon Suk-yeol said aimed to curb the North Korea nuclear threats. The U.S. National Security Council's Indo-Pacific Coordinator Kurt Campbell confirmed the arrival of the submarine, while Pentagon spokesman reiterated the nuclear submarine is a reflection of the commitment to his Asian ally. Senior officials from the U.S., South Korea, and Japan also will meet on Thursday in Japan to discuss the situation on the Korean Peninsula and ways to bolster trilateral cooperation. In the meantime, North Korea leader Kim Jong classified the talks as a meeting openly discussing the use of nukes against Pyongyang. Wang Jin, director of the Office of the Foreign Affairs Commission of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, received John Kerry, the United States President's Special Envoy for Climate, in Beijing. The representative of Washington completes its second day of agenda in China at a time when the hostility of his country's foreign policy has brought relations to historic minimums. Xi emphasized that despite a lack of communication, his country is confident that through further talks they can find the right solution to any problem. Kerry, on the other hand, said he hoped to be able to work together and generate significant change for the world. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There, you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, sub-stories, special broadcastings, and more. And hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Tuesday, hundreds of thousands of Israelis took to the streets in another double day of resistance against the controversial judicial reform being pushed by Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right government. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered in Havana Square in Tel Aviv and closed several streets. Meanwhile, police confirmed 15 arrests. The mobilization ratifies the rejection of the judicial reform promoted by the Prime Minister's government with the support of ultra-Orthodox and ultra-right groups, which, according to representatives of various civil organizations, is an attack on the balance of power and consequently on democracy. According to polls, a majority of Israeli questions the government's initiative, which could restrict the Supreme Court's ability to strike down laws by allowing Parliament to legislate bills challenged by the court.
Here because we want to save our economy. Since the judicial reform started, we see the impact on our economy, on the shares, on our savings, our future. This month is critical, this week is critical. In less than a week we will know if the first law out of this package is going to pass. The Israeli government moved into what we call the salami method, that they're going to pass law by law, and we're doing our best to fight it and to stop it.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad on Tuesday announced that reservists will be demobilized from the 1st of September. Bashar al-Assad stressed most of the territory is free of terrorism and the country is on the road to stability. In his capacity of Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Air Forces, Syrian President signed the order to demobilize non-commissioned officers and reservist soldiers. In the beginning of the armed conflict, the Syrian army deployed thousands of reservists to its flank to confront radical groups supported by regional and international powers. But with liberation of most of the territory from terrorism and the consolidation of stability, the president ordered the demobilization. After 4 months of fierce war in Sudan, humanitarian agencies say the country is experiencing one of the world's largest refugee crises. The United Nations organization assured that it is impossible to assist refugees and victims. The war between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces has also detonated inter-community conflicts in the Darfur region. The new refugee offices assured that the suffering of the population is undescribable, but its teams cannot work under the barrel of a gun. They denounced that those who try to flee suffer atrocities, especially directed against women and girls. On Tuesday, it was known about the conversation held on Saturday between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa on the export of Ukrainian grain across the Black Sea and preparation for the BRICS summit. According to the Kremlin, Putin told Ramaphosa that the obligations set by the pact regarding the removal of obstacles to the export of Russian food and fertilizers are not fulfilled. On Monday, Moscow decided to withdraw from the agreement on the export of grain across the Black Sea, but not before offering to replace grain supply from Ukraine free of charge to the countries in need. The details will be discussed at the Russia-Africa Summit to be held in St. Petersburg on July 27-28. On the preparation for the upcoming BRICS Summit scheduled for August 22-24 in Johannesburg. In person, the head of the Kremlin has not yet decided on the format in which he will participate in this meeting. We have come to the end of this brief. You can find this and many other studies on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.